How a normal investor beat billion-dollar fund. There is no denying that GameStop has become the largest video game retailer in North America, whether through acquisitions or simply outperforming their competitors. There is no other video game retailer with the same retail footprint or legacy as GameStop. But how did GameStop grow to be such a large retailer? This holiday season, we're looking at gaming's most divisive retailer and how they shaped the way we all play games. Everything has a story to tell. This is GameStop's story. In this video, we'll look at GameStop's humble beginnings and rise to prominence, and their eventual fall as the video game market transitions from physical media to digital downloads, subscription services, and streaming platforms. The company that became known as GameStop would not appear named until the late 1990s, but the company's roots date back to the mid-1980s. Developing into GameStop. In 1983, businessmen James M.C. Curry and Gary Kusin established Baggage, a small software retailer in Dallas, Texas. The startup, named after famed mathematician Charles Babbage, received significant support from notable individuals such as Texas businessman and future presidential candidate Ross Perot. Despite the North American video game crash of 1983, Babbage's was a success when it first opened, selling Atari 2600 games and computer software. By the end of 1983, the retailer had grown to 5 locations and continued to grow throughout the 1980s. The company began selling Nintendo games for the popular Nintendo Entertainment System in 1987. At the beginning of the 1990s, S had grown to a total of 160 stores across America. NeoStar Retail declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy at the end of 1996. The software retailer was in dire straits, with management unable to bring the company back to life. NeoStar's assets were sold to an investment group led by Leonard Riggio, executive chairman of the monolith bookstore, Barnes & Noble. Rio purchased NeoStar for a total of $58.5 million after the buyout and dissolved. The former Holdings Corporation, Beverages, etc., were created by combining the names of the two chains. BAS, etc., was revitalized with new management and a stronger economy thanks to their new name. However, neither retailer lasted long in the market. BAS, etc. opened 30 brand new stores in strip malls across America in 1999. That same year, GameStop.com was launched amid the website boom during the dot-com bubble. BAS, etc. was financially successful once more, and Rio's investment group was ready to sell. Game Informer, a video game magazine, was owned by Funko. More importantly, Funko specialized in buying, selling, and trading used video games, bandages, software, and so on. By the end of 2000, and Funko all merged into a single company. It was now known as GameStop, and it incorporated things in response to the release of new systems such as Sony's PlayStation 2. During the early 2000s, the video game market exploded in popularity. When it comes to buying, selling, and trading used video games, Funko stores were also rebranded as GameStop locations. GameStop locations were a huge success, with the retailer having over 1,000 locations by the end of 2001. The most recognized name in video games. The success of GameStop prompted Barnes & Noble to take the subsidiary public, as its own separate entity. In February of that year, a third of the company was listed on the New York Stock Exchange, with Barnes & Noble maintaining a controlling interest. Hundreds of new GameStop locations flooded the market in 2002 and 2003, and by 2004, almost all of the partially independent retailer stores were under the game. After being purchased only 5 years prior, the GameStop name 2004 marked a significant shift for the company. Barnes & Noble sold their GameStop stock to Barnes & Noble shareholders. GameStop was an independent company that could not have arrived at a better time than when the Nintendo DS and the start of a new generation of gaming launched in late 2004, ushering in an entirely new crowd of gamers. The newly independent GameStop began to try to emulate Barnes & Noble's success. MovieStop was launched by GameStop in 2004. The new chain worked in the same way as the game, purchasing, selling, or trading used movies. With only about 40 locations ever opened, MovieStop was never a huge success for the company. Furthermore, GameStop was now a multinational corporation with operations in Europe, Canada, and other countries. GameStop was gradually expanding to become the largest video game retail store in the world. Rhino Games, a southern US-based retailer owned and operated by Blockbuster, was acquired by GameStop in 2007. In April, GameStop purchased Free Record Shop, giving the company nearly 50 locations in Norway. Following that, Micromania was purchased for a total of $700 million. In 2005, GameStop, which had a strong presence in France, held midnight launch events across the country for the release of the Xbox 3. The following year, at over 1,600 stores, finalized the lineup for the next console war, and GameStop was the battlefield. Giant's demise. However, game over. The Great Recession began to cause GameStop's stock price to plummet as a company began to suffer. Even though gamers had less money to spend on non-essential goods due to the economy, GameStop was well positioned to continue operations. Worse still, in 2009, GameStop was embroiled in a scandal involving one of their own customers. Employees were allowed to take new games home, try them out, and then return them to the store to be sold at the new price under the GameStop's checkout policy. Similarly, to the used titles they sold, open copies of games for display would be sold at new prices despite the seal being broken. Following a summer of low sales in 2012, the announcement of new game consoles from Sony and Microsoft rekindled interest in GameStop. As with the start of the previous generation of gaming, the stock price of GameStop quickly rose in anticipation of the new system's release. By November of 2013, the price of GameStop stock had reached its peak for the decade. And GameStop was living their glory days as if the recession had never happened. While the seventh generation of home consoles cemented GameStop's position as the market leader in video game retail, it also housed GameStop's biggest flaw. Digital downloads are available on all 7th generation home consoles. To complement their recent purchases of Spring, Mobile, and Simply Mac, GameStop locations began carrying more items that did not fall precisely into the video game category. GameStop stores began accepting cell phone and tablet trade-ins while also selling these items in addition to prepaid phones. The release of the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 aided GameStop's position, but their online stores would once again hurt them. The addition of cellular devices did not result in the inclusion of the new customers GameStop wanted. Following hobbyist retailers such as Hot Topic, GameStop shifted their focus to merchandising collectibles in 2014 in order to increase revenue. GameStop stores began carrying a wide range of t-shirts, figures, trading cards, and other merchandise. In June 2015, GameStop paid $140 million for ThinkGeek.com, increasing their commitment to merchandise and collectibles. GameStop's downfall, on the other hand, was only the beginning of GameStop. The stock reached a new high in October of 2015 before falling to historic lows. Stop launched a new division called GameTrust Games in 2016 to combat this game. Song of the Deep from Insomnia at Games was GameTrust's first release as an independent publisher. The following game, Stop, looked to its past and began offering retro video game trade-ins. Games from the 1980s could be exchanged at any local game. By the end of the year, the program had been discontinued. In 2017, GameStop closed over 150 locations and saw its sales plummet to near-record lows. A publicity scandal involving GameStop's Circle of Life policy was added to the mix. Employees were rated based on their percentage of sales and 4 categories under the policy. GameStop's fortunes continued to deteriorate in 2018. At this point, the GameStop stock price was around $3.50 per share. The gaming titan was collapsing, and the game appeared to be coming to an end. The future was set. Today, GameStop is barely keeping its head above water. 2020 has caused many economic disruptions, but GameStops appear to be handling it well with stay-at-home orders. Throughout the world, GameStops have seen a resurgence and popularity as customers flock to their stores to find some entertainment. During the initial shutdowns in the United States, however, GameStop considered itself an essential business and kept its stores open at the expense of their employees' health. In March of 2020, GameStop caved and closed their doors to the public. GameStop in the present. A short squeeze of the stock of the American video game retailer GameStop and other securities occurred in January 2021, resulting in significant financial consequences for certain hedge funds and large losses for short sellers. Approximately 140% of GameStop's public float had been sold short, and the rush to buy shares to cover those positions as the price rose drove it even higher. Users of the subreddit WallStreeters, an internet forum on the social news website Reddit, initially and primarily triggered the short squeeze, though several hedge funds also participated. At its peak, on January 28, the short squeeze drove the retailer's stock price to more than $500 per share, nearly 30 times the $17.25 valuation at the start of the month. Many other heavily shorted securities and cryptocurrencies rose in value as well. After the peak in late January, the unusually high price and volatility persisted. The stock price of GameStop doubled in 90 minutes on February 24th, and then averaged around $200 per share for another month. After earnings were released and the company announced plans for a new secondary stock offering, the GameStop stock price fell 34% to $120.34 per share on March 24th. The stock recovered dramatically on March 25th, rising by 53%. The company's future does not look promising because their biggest advantages have not come from recent decisions. If GameStop does not start making changes, it will not be able to survive the result. However, with further downsizing and a focus on retro games and collectibles, GameStop's future could be bright. GameStop recognized the need for a niche that many towns and cities have. But if GameStop wants to remain relevant, it must return to its roots of buying, selling, and trading used video games. Thank you for watching the GameStop story. I hope you see this video when you're happy and healthy.